Hey guys, happy Monday. Welcome into Cancel This show. Time is 8:04. It's February 6th. Welcome to the start of another week. I'm Vic Faust with Tap of the Hassle. Scotty Gherkin here. We've got Mr. Producer in the studio again, and Eric will be here momentarily. Welcome in. What a week we have. If you're a fan of the show, if you've been watching, we put out a promo on Friday promoting this entire week. And it's going to be a packed week. A lot more. We're going to have to tighten up our production value this week because starting in about 5 minutes, excuse me, we're going to be talking with Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Looking forward to that. Coming up a little bit later today in the 9 o'clock hour, you won't want to miss Bradlee Dean, Sons of Liberty Radio, nationally syndicated man, based in the Minneapolis area. And as I told him, if there was ever a state that needed what he does, it is the state of Minnesota. You know what he told me? He goes, brother, every state needs what I'm doing.
That's true.
Times have changed. Tomorrow morning, Governor Parson. I mean, come on. We're very fortunate around here. We go from the Attorney General to the Governor in back-to-back days. We've also got working on George Norrie for this week for our Free-for-All Paranormal Friday. We've got, who else do we have? Ty Dennis is coming up this week to promote a massive Clippers and Cops event that he put on for St. Louis. This one's not going to be nationally. It's going to be held in St. Louis. Al James with Pixie Dust Seasoning coming in. Ben DeVerger with Athena Car Warranties. Kathy Helbig-Strick working on Colonel Joe. I mean, we've got so many. Am I missing somebody?
Probably a lot of people because we are so incredibly busy.
We've got all the guests coming up this week. Also, next Monday, we're already working on next Monday, a week from today. Just wait until you hear. We're going to talk with the head of the Ethical Society of Police about this state-controlled takeover of the police department in St. Louis City. The Ethical Society of Police are all for it. That's the African-American officer group in St. Louis, the all African-American officer group. They're all for state takeover of St. Louis Police. So we've got all those things going on. Tabitha and I caught up this weekend. Tabitha tried to kill me at a bar with her shots after shots. That
was not me.
I'm kidding.
I was drinking tea like a good little girl.
Who goes to a bar and drinks tea?
One of us, I guess.
Tab tea.
I know.
But anyway, we got all those groups coming up. Once again, it's cancelthisshow.com, cancelthisshow.com. Go into all of our go into our websites, go onto the platforms, like, subscribe on all the platforms that you can. Share the show. We ask you to share the show. You can also catch all of our original content that we're sending out there. You can catch the platforms, not only from a live standpoint, video right now, but you can watch us after we're done, as you know, where most of the views come from. And then, of course, the listening aspect, where you can go to cancelthisshow.com. And then you've also got an opportunity to listen to us on the go, where our segments are edited down, where you can catch us at Google, Apple, Spotify, and where else? We're Google, Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. So we're all over the place when it comes to that standpoint as well. It is a Monday, hoping to get you ready, get you kicked in, and ready to go with everything that's going on. Before we get into Andrew Bailey, we did want to talk, just to give you an update. Massive earthquake. If you haven't looked at your phone, your computer. Did you say 7.8 magnitude?
7.8 magnitude, correct.
Turkey and Syria.
And the Turkey and Syria already having so many issues over there with refugee crisis. Syria, obviously a lot of refugees in Syria already displaced from their home. Now we're hearing reports that 1,500 people have been killed and potentially thousands more missing and unaccounted for, potentially under rubble. It's a really serious situation.
Yeah, but weren't you telling me last week, it's not the magnitude of the quake.
It's the depth.
It's the depth. But how do you measure the depth? Because we don't get any of those measurements.
Well, yeah, if you go onto the USGS website, it'll tell you the depth of every earthquake. So,
but why isn't that being reported?
Oh, well, it's not typically. Sometimes it is reported. Sometimes you have to go out and look at it. I think because the average layperson doesn't think about the depth or care about the depth. They just think, oh my gosh, 7.8. But the difference is it depends on where the fault line is. Like here in New Madrid, on the New Madrid fault line, and where the New Madrid fault line lies and the depth of the earthquakes there, a 7.8 in New Madrid would be like a 12 on the Richter scale versus, because of the depth.
And we also talked over the weekend too, in one of our planning meetings, Missouri allegedly not ready for an earthquake, not even close to being ready. And I guess how would we be if you don't deal with something on a daily basis when we've got so many other things going on? It's a little scary.
It is scary. They've had emergency management teams in Southeast Missouri for months, probably over a year, coming up with different plans. They want to come up with an evacuation plan. And we have to remember that's not just going to be in Southeast Missouri. If there's a major earthquake down on the New Madrid fault line, guess what? That's going to affect us here. We're talking about the possibility of our bridges going out, high rises in the city potentially collapsing. It's going to be a really catastrophic major event that people need to be prepared for.
And it is Cancel This, Tabitha Hassel here, Scotty Gherkin, I'm Vic Faust, Eric Johnson on the way, and getting ready to talk with Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, who was really picked up where Eric Schmidt left off. I know that a lot of people who voted for Eric Schmidt felt as if, I don't know who's going to fill those big shoes. And coming out of the gate, Andrew Bailey has certainly addressed concerns if people had those in regards to the job that he's going to do. He's been very vocal. He has been very active. And of course, he's going to be jumping in not only with us to talk about what's going on, but also with this job as they move forward with everything else that's going on in the state. It's Super Bowl week as well. Fun story. Two Chief brothers, twins, had season tickets. One brother just suddenly died. I know what we think around here. He just suddenly died. They're like, what? He died all of a sudden recently, 67-year-old man. Family was devastated. Obviously, Chiefs fans had season tickets together. Go figure, brother just won. He's from Johnson County. A Chiefs random drawing through season ticket holders for 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. And those tickets are very, very, very difficult to get. You're talking 17% of the tickets go to each team. That's it. 17%. So this guy who just lost his brother just won a random drawing to go to the Super Bowl.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like, oh, and of course that gets into our Free for All Friday stuff. He's like, there's no doubt my brother was involved in that. So good story there to kind of kick off Super Bowl week as we get those things going. Go Chiefs. Sorry if you guys are rooting for the Eagles somewhere. We do broadcast out of the Missouri area. We're St. Louis. Of course, I was at a Chiefs game 2 weeks ago, and it was absolutely amazing. The loudest crowd that I've ever heard at a professional event. I'm a former sports guy as well. Been to just about every venue you can imagine, and I never heard it that loud. We've also got stories coming up today, which we'll be getting into. The spy balloon. Can't wait to break that down. As stupid and crazy as that story is, it is serious, but at the same point in time, something else was going on involving a 9/11 planner. You can't make this stuff up. So, we're all following a balloon. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it a balloon?
But when we get to that, I'll have something. I'll save it for then, for the conversation.
And we'll get into that.
Yes.
So that's coming up as well. What else? And then Tabitha really wants to hit today on facial recognition at the DMV.
I think everyone's going to be very surprised.
I was like, where did you come up with this?
Very surprised.
And then the other host, just to let everybody know a little bit about him, which we were talking about earlier. I just said he was nationally syndicated on radio, talking about Bradlee Dean, nationally syndicated radio talk show host, Sons of Liberty, also a weekly columnist for the Western Journalism, plus 35 other media outlets. He's going to be coming in today on the show to talk about all things America. Has been featured. I mean, Fox News, The Blaze, New York Times, MSNBC, The Weekly Standard. So he's based in the Minneapolis area. So we've been talking a lot about Minneapolis and Minnesota and some of the things that people are dealing with there. Can't wait to talk to him coming up at 9:00 as well. So we got all those going on. Scotty Gherkin, Eric Johnson will be here. Tabitha Hassel. I'm Vic Faust. Okay. When it comes to what's happening in the state of Missouri right now, this whole situation, which I wanted to talk to Andrew Bailey about as we get going with it, this whole drag show situation. I mean, It seems like it's been.
I don't care about the drag shows.
I know.
I'm kind of over that.
Aren't we over it?
I'm over it.
I mean, we dealt with this, like a month ago, over a month ago, month and a
Yes.
half ago?
Yes.
And then now nationally, it's now becoming a big deal.
And I understand, because I know there's people, while we've talked about it for quite some time, there's probably people out there, it's a new topic to them. I don't know. The way I think about the drag shows, you know what? It's not for children. So, don't allow children into the drag shows. Parents shouldn't have the option of bringing children into a drag show. But if you're an adult, do what you want to do. I mean, it's entertainment.
And
Who
if you
cares?
have, and if you have questions for the Attorney General, please let us know. We'll try to get to those questions as well. If you guys have those, just jump in. We're also running a text at the bottom of the screen. We do that with a number. You don't call that number, you text it if you ever want to join us from the video chat line. But you can also jump in and, of course, let us know what's happening with you when it comes to the whole situation. Maybe you have a question you want to ask the Attorney General about, if there's something that he could do, or you want to know what's happening in your neck of the woods. I know Tabitha wanted to ask him about a couple things. This is your chance to try to jump in. And of course, we'll get to the questions we can possibly get to as well. Was it a decent weekend, Tabitha? How was the weekend? Anything other going on?
Well, just another weekend. We had our fun up at our favorite place, Wenty's, here in Chesterfield Valley. That's about it for me.
Okay.
Nothing exciting.
I didn't know if you found
I
anything
live
else
a pretty boring
that was
life.
scary from the standpoint of, oh my gosh, just wait till you hear what's happened now.
Well, I mean, there's always things going on. I mean, the news never ends. I think the spy balloon just I'm going to call it a distraction, took away from most of the other potential news stories. And I really do think it was a distraction. I was doing a lot of work this weekend studying on the facial recognition and how that's coming into play and how that's going to lead us into the future. There's a lot going on.
All right. Well, we're going to join Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Scotty, they said that they're in the Zoom ready to go. So we're good to go. Okay. Thanks for the update. We welcome in Andrew Bailey, Missouri's Attorney General. Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Cancel This. Tabitha's here. Eric will be jumping in. You'll see a guy walk through the studio. That'll be Eric. We'll just check in with you in a second. That's how we kind of do it. First of all, congratulations on the job. A lot of people in the state of Missouri thought that Eric Schmidt did a good job. People thought like, well, there's some big shoes to fill. Who's this Andrew Bailey guy? You've come in. You've certainly you didn't start this marathon jogging. You've sprinted out of the gate. First of all, for people who don't know you, not only in the state of Missouri, but from around the country, tell us a little about yourself and how you got to this position.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And it's such a humbling privilege to get to serve as the 44th Attorney General in the history of the state of Missouri. And like you said, my predecessors leave behind a legacy of excellence. All I have to do is carry that on and keep finding ways to get better. And there are opportunities to do that. But for my background, there's really four things I want people to know about me. Number one, I'm a combat veteran. I served in the United States military as an officer in a combat arms branch of service that I volunteered for after 9/11. And I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that's a commitment I will never abandon and I carry with me here at the Attorney General's office. So I defended the Constitution on the battlefield in the War on Terror, and now in the courtroom on behalf of the people of the state of Missouri. I'm also a father of four, and getting to be a dad's about the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've adopted 3 children out of the foster system, and we've also had a biological child. So I have a deep love for my children and my family, but I want to make Missouri the safest state in the nation for children. And I think that's something we can, that's an achievable goal for us. I'm a prosecutor. I worked as a county prosecuting attorney as an assistant prosecutor and also as a prosecutor across the state of Missouri from the Attorney General's office. I've tried numerous felony jury trials, defended convictions on appeal, and in state and federal court in habeas challenges. So I believe that safer streets equal prosperous communities, and that we've got to support our law enforcement officers in their effort to keep our streets safe and keep us safe. I'm also a constitutional conservative. And so I believe in the text, history, and tradition of that document. I believe that it forms our national identity. And I believe in individual liberty and the structure of our government and separation of powers. And I will always stand up and fight for the people of Missouri to protect their constitutional rights.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a question for you, and more of a statement than anything. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this. I just hope it's something you can look into. Something we talk about fairly often on this show right here in the state of Missouri. we have, and I consider this to be predatory. We have these companies coming in, real estate companies, large investment firms, and they're coming in, they're buying all of the homes in various neighborhoods. As soon as a house is on the market, they're going to outbid the highest bidder to make sure they purchase this home. Then what they do is they take this home, they set it out as a rental property. They're collecting application fees, hundreds of dollars from families and application fees. They're making more money on application fees than they are at what they would be renting houses out. And they're letting them sit there for 6 months. And I'm really hoping that as Attorney General, this is something you can look into and tackle.
Well, and I would encourage anyone that has a complaint about, fraudulent or deceptive business practices to go on the Missouri Attorney General website and file the complaint. We have a consumer protection division and are committed to protecting Missouri consumers to make sure there's a free, fair, and open market in which consumers can buy and sell goods and services without deception and without fraud. And we're going to stand up and protect Missouri consumers. And so if that's an issue that needs to be addressed, by all means, consumers should feel free to go on and register the complaint. We'll investigate it. Yeah.
I don't think most consumers know this is happening. If you talk to people in the real estate industry, what they're saying is, hey, there's a big effort in this country to take away home ownership from families, from individuals. And we have these big companies being funded by Soros and the likes with millions and billions of dollars. And they're coming into neighborhoods, or they're right here in St. Charles County, all across the state of Missouri. We have to have better regulation to make sure these companies are not purchasing all of the homes and taking away the right of homeownership from citizens.
Yeah, I think that's right. The right to own property is protected by the Due Process Clause in the U.S. Constitution and in the 14th Amendment, certainly in our state constitution as well. And so the founders certainly understood how important property ownership was to the rights of citizenship, and I do as well. And so we want to stand up and protect Missourians and protect our constitutional right and make sure that we all get to enjoy that level of prosperity.
Yeah, we're talking with Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. I'm curious your thoughts. It was no secret that St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner and St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones disliked your predecessor. It was clear. It was a media issue. It was all over the tabloids, back and forth in regards to the city not basically wanting anything to do with the Missouri Attorney General. How do you make any headways in St. Louis, Andrew? Is it possible?
Well, I'm an optimist. I think anything's possible. We've got to get a handle on violent crime in this state and in this region and in the city of St. Louis. And the way you do that is empowering law enforcement officers to arrest criminals who are breaking things and hurting people, and then prosecutors have to hold those criminals accountable. We have room in the Department of Corrections for bad offenders, for violent actors, for people who want to break things and hurt people. And I'm always going to stand up and defend, never defund police, enforce the rule of law, support our prosecutors, and make sure we're holding people accountable so we can have safer streets that lead to prosperous communities.
I would love to go to talk about immigration, but I'm going to stay here in St. Louis. Something has to be done.
He'll have time. You can get back to that.
Good. Something has to be done. Kim Gardner and Tashara Jones have basically become politicians that have decided, you know what? We're hands off. If you get arrested, we're letting you out. St. Louis is a complete, it's in disarray. I mean, every morning I get up on Channel 2, Channel 4, and Channel 5 and watch 15 minutes of people getting shot in St. Louis proper. Have you talked to the governor? Have you talked to your predecessor? There has to be some tactical things that you guys can do to put people in jail, to make them accountable. There has to be a check and a balance on this rogue prosecutor here in St. Louis. I mean, is there anything you can do from this point forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me say, broadly speaking, you and your listeners know that woke left-wing ideology is destructive to human life and to property. And so when woke left-wing ideology drives the decision and not reason or the rule of law, we get to a destructive point. And we got to fight back against that. But at the state level, there have been state resources available. There have been state resources committed to the city of St. Louis. There are ongoing conversations at the state level of how the state can best move in and ensure that the laws are being enforced as written. And to that end, the Missouri Attorney General's office has more than 100 years of combined prosecutorial prosecutorial experience on one floor of an office building in Jefferson City. We have ample office space in the city of St. Louis and prosecutors on the job today with trial experience ready to go to work, holding people accountable. And all it requires is a prosecutor to ask for assistance, and the governor can appoint the attorney general's office to go assist in prosecuting criminals and holding bad guys accountable. All the cases, 100% of the cases, come to the Missouri Attorney General's office eventually, because the state at the AG's office handles 100% of felony appeals. So the cases are all coming here eventually. But we've got those resources ready to deploy. I know there are bills moving in the General Assembly, and certainly there's divergent opinions on what the role the state should play at the local level. But we've got resources ready to deploy. I think you've seen the state deploy some of those resources in the past, and we stand ready to do that again.
Last week, information came out where you really felt like you drew a line in the sand when it came to a topic that we brought up here well over a month ago. We alerted people on this show about a drag show that was taking place in the Chesterfield Valley. Other outlets did as well. Long story short, it ended up not being a kids accepted event. You came out hard against this last week. Where do you stand right now with that? Because you brought up a comment about it's about education, not indoctrination when it comes to kids in schools.
Yeah, that's right. And the parents need to have a voice in the process. As a parent, I'm appalled at this shameful behavior on behalf of the Columbia Public Schools officials. And so when we were notified of this, first of all, we demanded that they retain any records related to this incident. And then we, the school district, the school superintendent responded by saying two things. Number one, that, well, look, the school didn't really know that the drag show was part of this diversity and inclusion event, but also that there's nothing wrong with a drag show and with kids going to the drag show. And somehow the attorney general, I was hurting kids by spreading misinformation. And so he can't have it both ways. If the drag show's not harmful, why would it matter if they knew about it or not? So his responsive letter was internally inconsistent, but it's also more frightening because it evinces this notion that they're more concerned about woke left-wing indoctrination than education. They think it's okay to take your kids to a drag show. Nothing wrong with that. And especially if they want to get into this argument over, well, it's a G-rated versus an X-rated drag show and which article of clothing were or were not being worn and were taken off during the show. And that misses the entire point. Mm-hmm. For me, it's about protecting children and making Missouri the safest state in the nation for children, and our school system being about education, not indoctrination, and parents having a voice in the process. And it misses the point that a drag show is an inherently sexual production. Yep. The drag show itself is an outward expression of a desired inward sexuality, and it emphasizes sexual characteristics that appeal to the prurient interest. We have statutes on the books in Missouri where the General Assembly has put guardrails on how human sexuality is and is not to be taught in schools. And it doesn't authorize drag shows, but it requires parental notification. So we have a system failure from Columbia Public Schools in this instance. And so I called on the termination or resignation of any school official who knew or should have known about the presence of the drag show as part of the event. And in response, a week or two later, the superintendent sends a second letter saying, hey, look, I'm sorry, we got to improve our process, never really acknowledging that the drag show is the problem, because he's already on record saying it isn't a problem. So what we've done is we've drafted a model resolution that would comport with section 170015, which is the statute I referenced, which governs how human sexuality is to be taught in Missouri schools. And we want to empower parents. I encourage parents to go to the Missouri Attorney General website, download the model resolution, and take it to your school board meeting. Empower yourselves to have a voice in your children's education.
That's interesting because we really have never put a definition behind it, have we? I mean, we know what sex education was back in my day, but we've never had a definition of, if you are a man acting like a woman and you are wearing lingerie, you have now officially broken the law in the state of Missouri. We've never done. Have we ever done that in this state? I mean, have we ever really defined what is goes against these standards?
Well, again, I think that's what the model resolution does. I mean, common sense tells you that a drag show is curriculum regarding human sexuality. Yes. Because again, the drag show is sexual in nature. It doesn't matter if it's G-rated or X-rated. A drag show is sexual in nature. And that's the root of the issue. And the sooner we can get to an understanding on that and say, look, this doesn't have any place in schools. And if we're going to do that sort of thing, if we're going to be going outside of the standard human sexuality curriculum, We've got to notify parents, and parents have a say in that process. As a parent, I'm appalled. And so we're going to stand up and fight to empower parents and make sure to protect our kids.
But we have to go further than that, because, when you read medical journals now, all of a sudden they give you all of these options. Now there's, what is it? DFAB, designated female at birth. It's seeping into our everyday lives. I hope, as Attorney General, you can somehow change the law in Missouri where we don't have all of these ridiculous definitions. You're either an innie or you're an outie. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the books want to say.
Well, and I couldn't agree more. Look, gender is an objective reality defined at birth as recorded on your birth certificate. And so we actually do have a law in the books. The General Assembly has enacted a statute. It was last revised, I believe, in the late 1990s, that determines that, how your birth certificate is amended. And so again, it acknowledges objective reality. Your genetics determine your gender at birth, and that is recorded on your birth certificate. Now, the one exception that the General Assembly has provided for is if you have surgery, if you have parts removed or parts added, then you can change your birth certificate. But it's not a subjective determination. It's not that you can sit back and say, well, today I'm going to decide to be something different, or it's fluid. You have to take the objective step. And so that's codified in our statute regarding birth certificates. And I think that's a good starting place for people to look to. Certainly, the Missouri Supreme Court has cited to that statute in dealing with some of these issues under the Missouri Human Rights Act.
I have no idea if this is, I hear about it on national news, but I hear about school counselors and school districts in this country. And I don't know if it's happening in St. Louis or Missouri or whatever, but if a counselor says, I can sneak you in and get you sex change operation, or I can start the process of giving you whatever supplements to make you another gender. Is that child abuse? Is that considered child abuse? Can you go after them vigorously here in the state of Missouri, or is it still ambiguous?
Well, I would consider it to be child abuse for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're undermining a parent's right to parent their child. That is a constitutional right. The parents have a right to parent their child. And so when you have government officials or other entities who are undermining, interfering with a parent's right to parent their child, that is a huge problem, and it's a huge legal problem. And so certainly if there needs to be more definition added to our statute, we're happy to work with the General Assembly. And I think the General Assembly would be eager to do that. I mean, part of the problem is the woke left-wing ideology that we don't know. We've never plumbed the depths of how far they will go to destroy our culture, destroy our society, and hurt people. And so it's hard sometimes for the statutes to keep up as they plumb the depths, the nadir of this woke left-wing ideology. But I'll tell you this much: the Attorney General's office, as the chief legal officer of the state of Missouri, will always stand up and fight for the people of this state and fight to enforce the laws as written and empower parents to be involved in these critical decisions.
Good. Andrew, we've got the governor on tomorrow. We were certainly going to ask him about it as well. But your role, as Eric brought up earlier, when it comes to immigration and the state of Missouri, we're getting reports from people on ground all across the state of, we're not Texas, we're not Arizona, but the reports that we're getting, you would almost feel as if we're becoming a secondary state where illegal immigrants, illegal aliens coming into the state of Missouri. What kind of reports and news are you getting to that, and what do you have the power to do about it?
I would say that at this point, all states are border states. Illegal immigration, the Biden's utter failure to enforce immigration law at our southern border, and really any border, as evidenced by the Chinese spy balloon incident. I mean, he has no interest at all in enforcing these laws, but he's busy promulgating rules that undermine our state sovereignty. But we can get back to that. The point is, his utter failure to enforce immigration law is making Missouri communities less safe. It's endangering Missourians. And so we've partnered with other states to initiate action. We've carried on the fight that General Schmidt started in that space to hold the Biden administration accountable. He's got this new plan to do mass parole decisions for anyone that wants to come across the border. And that's not what the law was intended to do. And it runs counter to the plain text of immigration law. Parole decisions are made on individual bases. You can't just say, I'm going to parole everyone from this country. I'm going to parole everyone that shows up at our southern border this month. To do so would continue to make Missouri communities less safe. We can't allow Biden to do that. And so we've partnered with other states and initiated action to put a stop to it and hold the Biden administration accountable, because we're always going to stand up and fight to enforce the laws as written. It's a rule of law issue for me. I would also point out in the state of Missouri, it's a felony to knowingly transport an illegal alien. And so, people need to be aware of the consequences of their behavior and the state statutes on the books as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, and to keep with Vic's point, we had a guest on last week that says there are cartel members in Jefferson County. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we have active cartel. Crawford County. We have reports of cartel guys down there. And if there's one cartel member, there's going to be thousands eventually, you would imagine. So I guess my question to you is, do you know anything about this? I mean, have you heard any reports of any of these counties having an influx of illegal immigration? And if you do, what can you do about it? Do you send them back to Mexico? Do you incarcerate them? Do you just keep an eye on them? What happens with the state of Missouri?
Yeah. I mean, certainly we're well aware of the issues that are being faced across Missouri and in specific Missouri communities. We're aware of some of the law enforcement challenges that those pose. We've been in contact with the federal delegation on this issue. There's a United States Supreme Court case from about 12 years ago where Arizona tried to assist the federal government in enforcing federal immigration law, and the Supreme Court struck it down, said it was preempted by federal law. And so the states are unfortunately somewhat limited in what they can do, but there are things we can do at the state level. And so certainly we're interested in that. I mean, like I said, it is a felony under state law to knowingly transport an illegal alien within the state of Missouri. And we're going to stand up and help enforce the laws as written. We stand ready to assist county prosecutors in that endeavor. And to the extent there's further legal action we can take in federal court to hold the Biden administration accountable for his utter failure and chaos at the southern border, we're going to do it.
Amen, man.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But, as our top law enforcement office here in the state of Missouri, I know that you're aware of these multi-agency task force that we've put together that was done under the Trump administration. And a lot of those targeted St. Louis City, and specifically because of the violence that occurs here, the number of offenders who are out on the streets, et cetera, that should obviously be behind bars. The only way it seems like we can solve crime in the city of St. Louis and actually get people behind bars is to prosecute them federally. And I'm curious if you are going to continue to back these programs, because I know folks like Kim Gardner would love to not prosecute people federally.
Yeah. Well, somebody needs to hold the bad guys accountable. Somebody needs to prosecute bad guys and put them away. End of story. And whether it's the feds or the state, I work for the state of Missouri. I work for the people of the state of Missouri, and whatever tools I have at my disposal to hold accountable those people, those violent offenders who are hurting people and breaking things, we're going to use those tools and resources. We're going to get creative. We have more to follow on that issue. We're going to keep rolling out new ideas. We're going to keep brainstorming. We're going to partner with anyone that believes like we do, that safer streets equal prosperous communities, that we're here to enforce the law and protect Missourians.
Yeah, I think we need to do a full PSA about George Soros and the destruction that cat has done in St. Louis. But your predecessor was suing the Biden administration, it seemed like every 20 minutes. Can you give us an update on how some of those lawsuits are going?
Yeah, we saw you join one last week with 19 other states.
Yeah, no, states are the vanguard in the rise against the unconstitutional federal administrative state, and state attorneys general are the tip of the spear in that fight. And I'm excited to be leading that effort on behalf of the people of the state of Missouri. We're going to stand up and fight for the Constitution. Like I said, I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution and was willing to put my life on the line to do it. And that's a commitment I will never abandon. We have one of the most important First Amendment cases in a generation pending right now, Missouri v. Biden, where we partnered with Louisiana. And that case has uncovered deep coercion and collusion between federal unelected bureaucrats all the way to the top of the White House and big tech social media corporations to silence conservative voices, to censor speech in violation of the First Amendment. And so we've got to put a stop to it. And that's what we're doing. We are in that fight. We've got tens of thousands of pages of documentary evidence. We've taken numerous depositions of key officials, and we're not done yet. We're going to continue to fight to root out this vast censorship enterprise from Biden's administration that specifically targets conservative voices. In this country, the remedy for disfavored speech has always been counter speech, not government censorship. So we're going to fight for the Constitution. That's just one of the issues we're working on. We've also joined with other states to initiate action against ESG, the Department of Labor's new ESG rule that seeks to undermine the prosperity of Missourians and puts Missourians' hard-earned dollars at risk. The retirement funds, the 401ks, the savings that we've worked for, the Department of Labor under Biden wants to undermine that and put that at risk in favor of a woke left-wing social ideology. And so we're going to fight back against that as well. So we're excited to be the tip of the spear in that fight, and we're not going to give up. We're going to keep pushing forward.
Tabitha, do you have anything before we let the Attorney General go?
I don't believe so. I'm just wishing you the best of luck. They are tough shoes to fill, but it seems like you're doing a phenomenal job.
Anything you want to leave or let our listeners know and viewers know before you get out of here today, Andrew? We do appreciate the time.
Well, number one, thank you for all that you all do for the people of the state of Missouri. It is a humbling privilege to get to serve as the 44th Attorney General of the state of Missouri. I love the Constitution. I love the rule of law, and I love the people of the state. And if you like those things too, we probably have a lot in common.
Yes. Go after Kim Gardner, please. I want to go to the Battlehawks game without getting shot at. That'd be nice.
And Andrew Bailey. Andrew, thanks again for your time. Have a great day. We'll catch up. All right.
Thanks, y'all too.
Thanks, man.
All right. Love his energy. Andrew Bailey, as he told you, the 44th Attorney General of the state of Missouri. He has a ton of energy to go and attack that job. And as great of a politician as he is trying to be, love the fact that he has adopted 3 children on top of one of his own. And he's a Mizzou boy too. He's a University of Missouri grad. So MIZZOU.
Well, we've got to give him a shot.
Yeah.
It's tough. You know,
that's not an easy job.
It's
not
not
in
an
this day
easy
and-
job.
Not in 2023.
Not an easy job.
When you have 3 kids, though, and
4 total.
4 total, and you're tasked with taking a look at this is good news. When you're tasked at going and looking at school districts about critical race theory, about drag shows, about all of this nonsense that's going in our public schools, it's good to have someone like that taking a look at it because he has it from a different perspective.
Well, no question. And I believe he's running for. He just announce that he's going to run for Attorney General
Correct.
in the next election.
Yeah, because he was appointed.
He was appointed
because that guy Eric Schmidt, he won a Senate seat. So
that's right.
So
I know a guy that knows a guy.
Andrew, and Andrew was appointed that position, so he is going to have to run for that position, just like Eric Schmidt did when Eric Schmidt was appointed. And then ran for the position and won as well. So that's what Andrew Bailey
I'll tell you,
will be doing.
There's nothing negative about an attorney general from the state of Missouri being super aggressive against wokesters.
We have to hope he's aggressive. You know, I thought a lot of his answers were very cookie cutter politician type answers. He started loosening up a little bit.
He's not a politician.
But he also doesn't know it. Yes, he is a politician.
Lawyer.
No, he's a politician. If he's the attorney general, he is a politician. And that's okay sometimes. But I thought a lot of his answers were the very cookie cutter. But he doesn't know us.
Well,
it's the first time he's ever interviewed with us. He doesn't know us. And I'm used to Eric Schmidt, you know, who did know us and got to know us over time. I want to hear, you know what I want to hear from my attorney general?
Well, let me put
this. I'm going to do what you
hold
want.
On.
Are you an Eric Schmidt fan again?
Well, I've always liked Eric Schmidt as attorney general.
Okay, well, here's the deal.
Always.
What did Eric?
Yeah, that's right.
Let me ask you this. You love Eric. What did he do for St. Louis? Did he come in here and say enough is enough? We are going to be the check over your balance. Did he? I don't know.
You know what I liked about there were many things about Eric Schmidt as attorney general that I liked. One of those things was we had the opportunity very often, actually. He interviewed with us often. And hopefully Andrew Bailey will do the same thing.
Okay.
I have high hopes for Andrew Bailey. But with Attorney General Eric Schmidt, as one example, he came onto the show. I specifically asked him about untested rape kits in the state of Missouri. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I didn't know anything about that. But you know what? I'm going to go and look into it. He had no idea because there were hundreds of thousands of untested rape kits right here in the state of Missouri, all across the country. Do you know that?
Didn't you do that on our radio show?
Our show on The Edge.
That's what I remember.
Absolutely. So do you know that a couple months later, 5-6 months later, I read a news report that guess what? Eric Schmidt went out and he got those rape kits tested. And he got that information into the system, the DNA into the system. Oh. And there were several arrests because he did that. So he came onto our show. He listened to what we had to say. And you know what? He went out and did something about it.
That's very cool.
Well, we'll see. Andrew Bailey just started that job.
Absolutely.
And he certainly is hitting the ground running. He told us what he's going to do. And then when you first start, there's only so much you can say. Your track record.
He doesn't know us.
Your track record is where you go. But once again, I'm still not quite sure what exactly you wanted to to hear.
I don't want politician answers or them to recite whatever script spiel they give to every news agency they talk to. I want to talk to the person, Andrew Bailey. I want him to listen when I asked him about the real estate in Missouri, about homes being sold to these big investors that are
Mhm.
taking home ownership. I want somebody to say, you know what? Maybe I don't know about that. Maybe I do know about that. But you know what? I'm
I-
going to go and I'm going to look into it.
I felt
Not
his
come to
first-
my website.
Well, that was just one of them. I felt
It's a
like
standard
I
response.
felt like he was more. I felt like he was more open and responsive in his first interview than Eric Schmidt was the first time that we talked to him
and he made
three,
and it could
3
be.
years ago.
I
But
don't
at the same
remember.
point in
Yeah.
time, we'll get a chance because they just started, which
And-
is great.
And I want to make it very clear. I like the guy. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job.
We know who you are. It's all right.
Okay. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but you know how I am
Tabitha,
about
we already know.
politicians.
It's all good. But before we get, by the way, coming up at 9:00, we're going to talk with nationally syndicated radio talk show host Bradlee Dean with Sons of Liberty Radio. You won't want to miss that. Lots of energy there. He's convinced he knows Eric somehow, some way over the years. And I said, no, he's not that Eric Johnson guitarist.
Well, or I could be the tight end for the 49ers.
Or the tight end for the 49ers
Or the hockey
from
player
years
for
ago.
Colorado or the Blues. The old Blues.
A couple of rock guys going at it. Anyway, he's coming up at 9. Before we got to that, Tabitha's like, Vic, today we got to talk about this because I brought it up last week. Facial recognition at the DMV.
Eric, we're going to blow your mind.
What the hell's going on, Tabitha? What do people need to know that you have found out that you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe we got facial recognition at the DMV.
A listener of the show, a longtime listener, good friend of the show, sent me a message and he said, hey, I went to the DMV. I had to have my driver's license renewed. I sat down for my photo and they told me to remove my eyeglasses.
Okay.
And he said, well, why would I have to remove my eyeglasses? I legally have to wear them while I'm driving. And he said the DMV person looked at him directly and said facial recognition. That so I looked into this a little bit further. Every time you go to the DMV and they take your photo for a state ID, driver's license, or anything else, your photo, your face is being sent in to a facial recognition system. And I've always wondered, how do they know who we are? How does facial recognition work? How do they have my face?
It's the way your phone
It's the
opens
DMV.
up. Well, the same way your iPhone opens up. It's no different.
But why is this a problem?
Why is that a problem? Not one time
Wait a
has the
minute.
DMV ever told me, when you sit in this chair and I take a photo of you for your driver's license, I'm taking that photo and it's going to be entered into a system, a
Yes.
facial recognition
It's your
system.
thumbprint of your face.
Yeah. And then you're going to be at the airport someday
Yeah.
and you're going to be walking through the terminal and our system's going to pick you up. They need to disclose that to people.
Okay, can I be the devil's advocate?
Of course.
Tabitha Hassel's walking through the airport. You've done nothing wrong. You slide right through the facial recognition. Right behind you comes some terrorist from some country, South America, maybe over there in Saudi Arabia, wherever. We've been looking for this cat. Boom, there he is. It's a fingerprint going through public spaces. And I'm not trust me, I am very
I know you're not advocating
I am
for
very
it.
1984 averse, but but it is not something that maybe they go, okay, we have this person, they're here, go get them. I mean, isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, we're all different. For me, and I've always said this, and people think I'm nuts on this. I don't care. Right now, at this point in time, I don't care because I'm not doing anything wrong.
Well,
I'm not worried about situations like that. Most of the time, it is about safety and security issues, which is why your face is taken from a picture and put somewhere else. However, I do understand your point, Tabitha.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
When it
yeah,
comes-
because it could be used for nefarious purposes. You don't know who's going to get a hold of this information. The sites could be hacked. Not only that, but right now we trust our police. I trust our police. But what if somewhere down the line, when things change in this country and we no longer trust law enforcement, because that day may happen somewhere down the road? What if I don't trust our government.
But that
I
could
don't
be
trust
with a million
the
different
Biden
issues.
regime. I understand that. But just the same way is I don't always trust my DNA in these ancestry sites because we don't know how they're going to use
Yeah,
it.
the DNA aspect, you had me. The facial recognition, I don't see a massive issue with it. My only issue is this, is I feel as if you should be told But even if you're told, what are you going to do? Not get a picture anymore at the DMV? No, you want your driver's license. So yes, you're still going to sit there. You're still going to take that picture. You may be pissed about it.
Right.
You know about it, but nothing's changing.
Yes.
It shouldn't
Nothing.
be. It should not be allowed. That
But you realize it's not going
but that
anywhere.
just-
It's here to stay.
That just
Tabitha.
goes to show that we cannot trust our government.
Why?
Well, of
Because
course.
here
we
we
already
have,
know
because
that.
Eric, just what Vic said, you have to, if you want to drive, guess what? You have to have a driver's license. If you want to fly, guess what? You have to have a state ID. Look at how many things in this country you need a state ID for. So therefore,
Except to
guess
vote.
what? Except for to vote. Therefore, it's a trap. No matter what you do, they're going to have your face in this facial recognition system because
Let me
you
ask
need
you
an
this.
ID.
Let me ask you this.
What if, Eric, what if
Hold on.
someday you're walking
Yeah,
down
I
the road,
agree.
minding your own business, somebody gets robbed on
Yeah.
I don't know, 10 blocks down, and they say, oh, it was Eric
Mhm.
Johnson. We got him in the facial recognition system.
Let me see it. Let me see the video then. Here's the deal. We talked
They
to
don't have
Cedric.
to show you the video.
You have a Facebook page.
We
I
talked to
guarantee
Cedric.
government knows who you are already.
Yeah, we talked
oh,
to
me?
Cedric.
Yes.
We talked to Cedric on the show about putting 10,000 feet drones over St. Louis, keeping an eye on St. Louis because it's so dilapidated and out of touch and out of step and dangerous. Well, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, if we talk about one thing, one technology, facial recognition, no, it sucks complete balls. Trust me, I get it. Nobody wants to be in a state like that. But right now we're living in this bizarre time and there's a lot of thug criminals out there and we need to figure out who they are. And we
I
need
understand.
and when someone comes down the damn street and we have Ring cameras and we see the person, we should know bam immediately who the hell that was.
I would expect
It's
you
almost like a
guys-
license plate for your face.
I would expect you guys. Well, I don't like that idea either. I don't like the license plate scanners. I understand the purpose, and I understand that sometimes they actually are very good at catching the bad guy with
Very
warrants,
good.
but they're also a violation of your privacy. It's a violation of my privacy for me
It
to go
is.
and get my driver's license taken, and all of a sudden I'm in a facial recognition system. And right now, I trust our police officers. There may be a day when
What
we
is
don't.
it? What are you afraid? And I'm with you. Trust me. I'm in creep factor.
But you're always looking
I'm
down
in
the
creep
road 20,
factorville.
30 years, and then your
I'm in-
life today is not good.
I'm in
It's like
cre-
you're not happy. You're frustrated.
Yeah,
You're
Who?
about something that could happen 30, 40 years
Yeah,
down the line.
why are you in
My
it?
life is very happy and it's very good.
Do you know the database that
I
you're in right now?
think it's a
Do you have
violation
any
of our
idea?
privacy.
No,
It's not about me, Eric. It's about everyone out there.
what
I'm already-
violation?
Trust me, the government already knows who I am.
If
That's
you have
my point.
if you have a camera
But
in
that's
your bath,
me. What about my son? What
Oh,
about
man.
grandchildren, etc.? What
What
about
about
your
'em?
family?
they know who you are. They got your
When-
fingerprints.
When are we going to start standing up for
Yeah.
ourselves and for our freedom? This is not a free society when you have when your face is in a computer system and everywhere you go they track you with
What's the
facial
problem?
recognition software. They can track everywhere you go.
They can
Yeah.
do it with
What
your
happens
phone.
when it's on every single
There's
corner?
a
You're
murder
tracked with your
case. There's a
phone.
murder
I'm not
case.
talking about me. I
There's a
use
murder-
my
What do you
spy
mean you're
device.
not talking about
I
you?
use my personal spy device. They already know me. I'm on this show. They already know who I
Yes.
am. What about all of the other people? When is it too far?
Okay.
Here's the deal. Your phone
You're
is worse
combining
than
a
your
bunch of
face.
things.
Your phone makes your face look like nothing. If you take your phone and kill somebody, they're going to know exactly where you were. Oh, look, they were right by the
So
dead
are
body
you-
with 2 minutes
Are
before
you
they were.
okay? Are you okay with facial recognition software? Are you okay
Yes.
with the government tracking every move?
What are they
going to
use with it?
by
What are they
your
going to do
face?
with
because
it?
we're tracked anyway by a variety of
What the hell are they going to do with
sources.
it? I don't understand. What do you think they're going to do with it?
The same thing that we think they could do with, let's say, DNA.
Yeah.
I don't think this is happening right now. There's a court case out there where there is a guy who claims, and I don't believe him, but he claims that he didn't murder this person. They planted his DNA because they got it from one of these ancestry
Mhm.
DNA cases. And, in a, let's say if we're watching a movie, some futuristic movie, who's to say that they're not going to take your face? We already know. It goes back to JFK. Who killed JFK, right? Let's just say if we had a modern who killed ex-president and we say, well, it looks like it was this guy. They're saying it's this guy. This guy claims it's not him. How do we know they didn't use a deep fake? How do we know they didn't use fake facial recognition or that they didn't plant his DNA? Because they have everything on us that
Mm.
they need.
I'm scared. Are you scared over there, millennial? I'm sorry, Gen
No,
Xer.
I'm just here's the thing.
Are you scared? This is her right here. Me, I'll be dead and gone. But
yeah, that's mystery producer over
go ahead,
there.
mystery producer.
No, so
We don't want to say her name because why? Because of
So
facial
she's-
recognition. Or
yeah,
what?
voice recognition.
Go ahead. Use here.
Exactly.
Disguise your voice real fast. Go. I am super scared. Here, are you afraid of what's coming at you in the generations to come?
I don't know. I think a lot of it's already happening.
Yes,
so-
a lot of
Whether
it's already
we-
happening. Look at
if
that.
you-
It is
Right there.
already
If
happening.
you get up and decide to live today, Tabitha, if you accept to use a telephone,
Oh yeah.
if you accept to use a computer, I know you want to live in the woods off the grid. I
Me too.
get it.
Me too.
Everybody,
Have a room for me
I would love to.
everybody, most people would like to do that. Some
on the
every
beach,
day,
off the grid on the beach.
some just for a break, some
Yes.
for vacation. But that's life, Tabitha. And I don't think it means that you're not a freedom fighter. You're not a son of liberty. If you're like, listen,
So
I
you're
get
trying to
it.
say that I should be desensitized to it
No.
because we've
No.
already
You're aware of
allowed
it.
the government to
There's-
track us.
Okay, listen.
And I don't mean this against
we
you
haven't,
by
no,
any
we haven't
means.
quote allowed them. It's all part of this technology
Mhm.
We've
that-
allowed it.
that is
Yes.
part of our everyday life.
Keep preaching.
But we have allowed it. You know what? When the first
Yeah, because we as a whole wanted it, Tabitha.
when the I don't
We
think
want
most
our
people,
cell phones. Yes, we do.
No, I would love to
we
have
want
a
our
cell phone.
laptops. We want our computers.
The cell phone doesn't have to track you. That's a feature they put on it. They could make a cell phone that does not track you. Google right now is being sued because even when you turn your location services off, it still tracks you. They still know where you're at.
Correct.
They know everything we say, everything we do. They can take photos of us. We let it get too far, and we
It's not
continue
changing,
to
Tab-
let it get too
But
far.
Tabitha, you
I-
realize
it's too late.
nothing is changing.
I agree. It's
So
too late.
there's no reason to bitch about something that's not going
Yes,
to
there
change.
is plenty of reasons.
Because if you're it's just
There should
bitching
be
to
a-
bitch.
There should be that's a derogatory thing to say. And second
No,
of
not at
all,
all. What?
second of all, if there should be a great big sign at the DMV that says when you sit in this chair and you get your driver's license renewed,
Yes.
when you get a state ID, guess what? We're taking a photo of you, and that photo is going to go into a facial recognition system.
Okay, but
and
just-
there's no sign
So
that
you
says
have
that.
knocked out?
Yeah, you
What?
just
Okay,
and
here's
you're
the deal.
still gonna take
What-
the picture.
What
And
criminal?
then
Yeah,
your day
because-
is, and then your day's
Isn't
ruined.
Isn't there
You're all
something
pissed.
in the Bible about this where they force
You
you
just try
to take
to-
their number?
Well, scriptural.
That's not
It's-
the
it's-
same thing.
It's not the
It's the
same.
same.
If you got your
thing.
thumbprint,
It's
in,
about buying services without a number.
in the 1920s when we got thumbprint technology, it's the same thing. We know who you are. You committed a crime. Look, we're taking your
They
fingerprint.
don't have everybody's fingerprint, or they used to not. You know what? They used to not have everybody's fingerprint. They
Okay.
used to only have your fingerprint if you committed a crime.
Yeah.
Then guess what? They rolled out a program where, oh, your kid might go missing someday. Come in and let's put their fingerprints in the system.
Yeah.
Now they have everybody's fingerprints.
Would you rather have facial recognition
just
and
can't- we
fingerprints
can't
of illegal
climb.
aliens?
I would
Aliens?
rather not
Plain.
be tracked at all. I would rather be able to take my cell phone and turn my location
Yeah.
services off and not be
we
tracked.
all want. We all
but
want
we
that.
don't have that option because our government
Yeah,
tracks
we
us
all-
whether we like it or
We
not.
all want that, but it's not.
and you guys should be
changing.
more angry about it.
But being angry and
Not really.
complaining, as I said, and moaning, it's not going to make your life any better.
If you have the
My
technology,
life is fine.
Hold
Quit saying
on.
my
no,
life
I'm not
is bad.
talking about you specifically, the general group.
I think everybody's life is just fine, but that doesn't mean we
Bitching,
shouldn't.
complaining, whining,
over it.
it's not going to change.
If you
anything.
have the technology, if you have
Yes.
the ability to have a piece of software and the government can legitimately almost, I mean, I don't think do you think that anybody's in a room tracking Tabitha Hassel? The answer is no, they're not. But if you go into an airport or a bank and you do something nefarious, they're going to go, we have that facial,
Exactly.
we have that face, we know who that
Yes.
is. That's Tabitha
but
Hassel.
see, that's not true because when Trump was
not?
president, one of the
Seems
things that
true.
he spoke about, many people have spoken about it, is the government keeps tabs on us. They keep tabs on us. And it's not just when you do something wrong. It's not just then. They know what you're doing.
So what are they
All
going
the
to use
We're
that
not
data
free,
for?
Eric. We're not free.
No
There's
doubt about it.
freedom is an
We're in a-
illusion in this
look,
country.
But you still guess what? You deal and you make the best of the situation every day.
Look, we are
Of
in a
what we
hot
do.
look. The
We
United
do
States.
that on this
Welcome
show.
to communism.
The United States is a high-tech communal democracy. It's what we are. We live in these urban areas.
Yes.
We invented the urban areas. We live in these rural areas. We have a DMV that has technology to make sure that we are who we are. Fingerprints, facial recognition.
See, but you're
Um,
saying it's
so-
okay. Just because they're already doing it, it's not okay.
Let him finish. You keep interrupting.
Oh, you mean like you guys do me?
Oh, she's getting personal.
She's getting mad.
Just let Eric finish.
She's getting mad. Don't get mad, Tabitha.
Yeah.
Take
I'm
a
not
deep
mad
breath.
at all.
I want you to have a nice,
Just want you to
quiet,
be happy.
I want you to have a nice,
I am happy.
quiet
You
place in
don't
your
sound
house
happy.
where you do breathing
I'm not happy because
exercises.
I want
you
you
need
guys
to do
to
breathing
be angry.
exercise.
Say no, it's
Breathe
not
and
okay
leave.
for my government to track me.
Your
Just
blood
say
pressure-
that
It's
for me.
not okay for your government to track you. I said it for you,
Thank you. I appreciate
but
that.
nothing's changing.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to
Because
push
we're
back.
not angry
You're
enough
not
to
No,
make
it's
it change.
angry enough isn't going to
Look,
change anything.
You want to be mad at somebody? Be mad at George Bush.
George Bush, what does he have to do with any of this?
The Patriot Act started everything. The
Yes,
Patriot,
it did.
Well,
The
you're
Patriot
right.
Act.
It
But
did.
Come on, Tabitha. You know this. I don't need to teach you anything. Come on, man.
Let's blame Obama. Obama is the one who wrote
Him
the law
too.
to make it legal to spy on people, like our friend Charlie Strange told us.
Blame it all on Obama.
What happens whenever this country goes through turmoil? We invent ways to try to protect us again. Like TSA has destroyed every airport across the planet right now.
Mhm.
You think that the terrorists didn't put their fingerprint right on this country? The TSA is a good example of that. Right now, there's facial recognition. Okay, the only problem I see in it is if it gets hacked and it gets into nefarious hands. However, wouldn't it be nice? I mean, I don't even know. I'm playing the devil's advocate. I hate that George Orwellian 1984. I do. But wouldn't it be nice if the thugs, and I use that term lovingly, they go down to the mall, the Galleria in St. Louis. We immediately know who all four of the thugs were that bashed in the windows at Macy's because we have facial recognition technology. As a matter of fact, we can even put it on the news tomorrow because we have these guys. We know their names. We know where they live. We have all
I
the
agree.
data.
And
Wouldn't you love that?
They used
Seriously.
it. They used it against us on January 6th. Look at all the J6ers who are sitting in prison right now because they picked up on their facial recognition, or all of the people who have lost their jobs because they were picked up on facial recognition, and now people know that they were there that day. They will use it against us, Eric. That's my whole point.
Okay. Well, if they do, then we'll have to keep an eye on that. You know what I'm saying?
It's just
And Donna, to Donna's point, even some of the J6ers had a mask on, and guess what? They can still recognize you by the top half of your face.
Okay.
That's how crazy these systems are.
there we go. We'll do yeah.
So what do you
It's
want to
all
do?
part
You
of
want
it.
to be able to, so what you're saying is you want to be able to commit a crime and to be able to go right back into your private lifestyle without anybody knowing. Is that what you're saying?
She would rather
Of course
that.
not. Of course not.
Well, you can't have it
Of
all ways.
course
not.
That's
Have it both
our
ways.
society isn't. We don't
Have you
get it
ever-
I
always.
think that
We have to take it all
Yeah.
together.
I think that we are too desensitized to the tracking that they do of us. There was a time when we were not
no
tracked
doubt.
by
Yes,
our government.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a time,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
slowly, we've given up our rights. And this is not against you guys or your side of the argument. The fact is that there's too many people who are too complacent right now and
Mhm.
say, well, they already track us, just let them track us some more. And I'm not okay with that.
Well, this is a conversation that you would have to have over a nice glass of red wine and a campfire, talking to our Gen Z mystery producer, and you go, way back in the day, nobody tracked us, and because she's not going to know the damn difference. She's going to go, oh my God, this is
That's exactly my fear, Eric, is that
Yeah,
younger
but it's-
people
but
aren't
what-
going to know the difference.
yeah, but what
They're
was
going to know
normal
that
to
they've
you,
always been tracked.
what was normal to you,
Yes.
to her, she's gonna be like, whatever. It's like to me, cell phones are far creepier than facial recognition. To me,
They
cell
are.
phones
I
know
agree.
everything, and if you hit the wrong button, it's gonna get broadcast to everybody. I mean, to me, the real hack on this planet Earth is the cell phones.
You're
Because
right.
guess what there is on the cell phone? There is a damn camera looking right back at your ass.
Boom.
But you should
Seriously.
you should have the right to turn off the tracking on your cell phone.
Nobody knows how to do that.
And yeah, you do. It's
I
very
don't.
easy to turn off your location services, but that's why Google is being sued, because you can turn it off, and guess what? They're still tracking you.
And you
Okay.
still get tracked anyway.
That's
which
the
is
creepiest
why
of the technology to
It
me.
is. It's
w-
not right.
You bring it to light, and then you let people know, and it's part of the society that we live in.
Yeah.
Life is good, but life can also be bad.
Yeah.
Technology can be good, but guess what? Technology can be bad
Yeah.
at the same point in time. And guess what? What we're dealing with now and where technology is taking us, we're not going back.
No.
We're not.
It's a shame.
It's a part of it. You try to limit moving forward. But at the end of the day, we're living in this,
Yeah.
and we have to live with it and try to make the most of it and make our voices heard because we are stuck with it.
It's true.
And there's a lot of technology that we love, Tabitha.
We don't have to be stuck with it. We can move out to the wilderness and never
That-
be
well,
seen by
that-
Go
humans
ahead.
again.
Exactly.
That's the only way
Go
these
ahead.
days. But you know what? You can't do that though.
But
It's
you
easy to
can't
say,
do
"Hey,
that.
I'm going to move out to the country and I'm going to live off the grid." But gee, guess what? You can't do that because they say it's not sanitary to
And
not
it's
have
not
sewage.
fun.
It's not sanitary to
fun.
not have running water.
Yeah.
You
It's too much
cannot
work.
collect rainwater because guess
Too
what?
much
That's
work.
illegal.
Yeah, it's too much work.
Everything's against the law.
It's
there
too
are-
much work.
There's no workarounds
No.
being spied on. That's where we're at today.
I'll deal with it. You're spied on by your ex-boyfriends, I'm sure. They're all stalking you.
I highly doubt that.
It happened. That's
I
all
think they're
part
all
of it.
dead.
By the way, this is Cancel This. CancelThisShow.com. Once again, CancelThisShow.com. Thanks again for joining us every day as you do. The viewership, the listenership continues to go stronger. Once again, if you go to CancelThisShow.com, like what we're doing, subscribe, and share the show. We ask you, please share the show. If you like what we're doing, share the show. Of course, you can watch us live from 8 to 10 a.m. Central, Monday through Friday. And then if you like the viewing aspect, you can watch us. Those episodes are saved right there on our website, CancelThisShow.com. Also, if you're on the go, if you're not a video person, and you're a person that listens to podcasts on the go, you like it, we've got the audio for you there as well. You can just go to CancelThisShow.com, click on your platform. We've got Apple, we've got Google there,
Yes.
iHeart, and Spotify as well for you to jump in and check out things that you like. Based out of St. Louis. Love the listenership that we have throughout the state of Missouri. And now we're starting to find out from Alex at Raising Sales or Marketing Company that we're big in other parts of the country. So we're grateful for you guys doing this, jumping in and being a part of the show. Coming up tomorrow, Missouri Governor Mike Parson will be joining us right out of the gate by about 8:10. He'll be jumping in. Also talking with Justin Hicks, a Missouri representative tomorrow. Lots of interviews coming up this week and also getting ready to set to talk to Bradlee Dean, Sons of Liberty, nationally syndicated radio talk show host based out of the Minneapolis area in Minnesota. He's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. So we appreciate you jumping in. Also, if you have any questions, if you have stories, if you have interviews from people you think we need to get in contact with, let us know. You need to jump in. We will do our best to get into those as best as we possibly can. We've also got something that we need to get into before we talk to Bradlee. Big story that hit, and this was regarding, okay, we knew that the balloon was flying around. We look stupid. I know a lot of people like to joke about it, and that's exactly what
man.
China wants. But at the same point in time, while everybody's looking to the eye in the sky and the balloon floating around, Tabitha reminded us that, oh yeah, here's what we got going on. A 9/11 terrorist planner was released from GITMO this weekend. Oh yeah, just while everybody's looking at the sky, does that concern you? Nobody who had any part in 9/11 should be seeing the light of day.
No.
And this all of a sudden happens. And of course, Tabitha, you think this was all planned, right?
Well, yeah, they had already, the Biden administration, I think it was 3-4 days ago, they had already secured the release of 5 detainees. 5.
Mhm.
And there have been a total of 3 that have been released in the days that the China spy balloon was floating around the United States. I have no doubt that this was a huge distraction. I mean, yes, it's a big deal that we had this spy balloon floating across our country, but did it need the type of coverage it had?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
it did not.
It did. Absolutely, it did. What are you talking about? That is a massive national breach. And the story wasn't such that it was a balloon. It was a spy balloon that was as big as 2 Greyhound
I'm
buses.
not saying it's not. I'm
No,
not saying
no,
it's
no.
not a big story
Listen
and that
to me,
it was
listen to me,
okay to
listen to me.
happen.
Don't discard that, because here's the deal. Here's the real story. Here's the real story. You ready? It was the observation of how the United States government tracks this balloon and does nothing with this balloon as China is floating over our heads, okay? And how we as American people Did we joke about it? Were we pissed about it? It was a unique observation for me to see the memes being made as a spy balloon. It's literally a trial balloon. It's literally a trial balloon.
It's a spy balloon.
You
It's a spy
just
balloon.
said you were okay with being spied on 2 seconds ago because you said
no.
your
What are you
phone
talking
knows
about?
everything you do.
No, it's not the same thing.
What?
It's not.
Tabitha, come
You
on.
don't-
Tabitha, you're being disingenuous right now.
What
I
in
see
the
it in your
hell are you
eyes.
talking about, girl?
I'm
Girl,
s-
we got to do
So
a,
it's okay
a
for
whole
your
show with a
government to
sedative.
spy on you, but not okay for China to spy on you. You don't think China knows
No,
what's
you're
going
not
on in your
hearing
cell
me.
phone?
You're not hearing me. You're not hearing me. Listen to me.
Yes.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Just take a deep breath. I'm saying this. A spy balloon. Instead of it being a high-flying spy airplane that is tracking our ground information, it flew literally over 2 nuclear military bases. Okay, it knew where it was going.
More than 2.
It knew what it wanted to see. It was going through a joyride. The United States was penetrated by the CCP. Okay, that first of all, that's the number. First thing that should have happened when it got to the Aleutian Islands. Number one, you put a bomber up there at 6,000 feet or a fighter jet, and you blow the thing out of the air. You then collect the debris, you put it in a massive FedEx box, and you send it back to China, and you go, what the hell is this? No, don't talk. You go, what the hell is this? You say nothing. Why are you putting spy balloons over the Aleutian Islands? What's wrong with you? You put another one over the thing. We're going to blow that one out of the damn water too. And the next time, we're going to do a massive worldwide PSA that says, watch out for China. They put up spy balloons over your country, Central America. The Monroe Doctrine should have been initiated immediately, as there's another one floating around down in the South.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, can I say
there's
something
nothing. There's nothing even similar about a facial recognition going to the DMV and a damn Chinese balloon floating over Scott Air Force
Okay.
Base.
So here's something that we need to discuss. According to our government, whether I believe them or not, I don't know. They claim there were 6 of these balloons that floated across the country over the past 4, I believe they said 4
That's even
years,
worse.
6 of them, and we did absolutely nothing. My point isn't that the spy balloon is okay. It's not okay. We should have shot it down as soon as it was seen before it even entered our
We're on
space.
the same page.
Yeah, it's a huge story. It's huge.
But here's my issue with it and where I started out with. It's not that it's not a big story. It's not that I'm okay with it happening. I'm not. But the media went crazy with it. They went crazy
didn't.
with this story.
No,
it
they
was
didn't.
on every single
they
channel, 24/7. But
it was on one channel.
It was
Fox. Fox
it was
was
on
the
all of
only
them.
news channel.
I
Fox News.
watched at least 6 different channels
Fox News
that
was
were tracking it. As a matter of fact, MSNBC was so stupid. They kept showing the moon. And they're like, look at the China spy balloon. I'm like, that's the moon for God's sakes. And then I guess somebody realized it and they panned over.
The story is
the
basic.
spy balloon's not okay.
Look,
but Eric,
this is a story.
you're missing my point.
No,
Is the fact that the media was so engaged
cares
in
about the
this.
media?
It was a distraction on the media's
It
end.
was. It was a distraction.
no,
Because they're not talking about real news. They're only talking about this spy balloon.
they're literally talking about a balloon that's going fast enough to walk across
What
the
about
United
the 6
States.
other ones? What about the 6 other ones?
Okay, fine. But the one that we saw, my friend right before I went to a PRL show said, "Hey, look, I took a picture of the spy balloon over Eureka, Missouri." Okay, that is a big story that there's a damn balloon that has cameras trained at Eureka, Missouri going to Scott. The story is this. Again, it's not about the damn balloon. Of course, China wants to do something stupid like that. The real story is that we didn't have an F-15 Eagle launching a missile at the damn thing over the Aleutian Islands.
Well, apparently
that's the story.
They tried in Montana, and I guess they missed. I don't really know. I'm still confused about what happened in Montana because we know the spy balloon was there, and then there was an explosion in the sky where the spy balloon had been. But see, this balloon moves very, very, very quickly.
Yeah. So do fighter jets from other countries.
Yeah.
I mean,
a Mach 2 fighter jet can keep up with a spy balloon, Tabitha.
Here's the deal. This was a big story. It showed the inaptitude of Joe Biden. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not a leader.
Part 2
It was another example of the Biden administration's failures. Another example of why this is the worst presidency the United States has ever seen. It was also an example of how China could just come and do whatever they wanted. Yes, if you think for a second this was just a joke, oh yeah, we're just going to send a balloon over there and yeah, we're just going to see it. You've got to be thinking smarter. I'm putting my Tabitha hat on here for this one. my Tabitha thinking brain, you better believe for any ounce of brain ability that you have, that something is going on. Something was going on. You can shoot something down, but you let it travel the entire length of your country
There you go.
before you shoot it down when it's getting ready to leave. You're talking about this balloon entering United States airspace over 10 days ago, and you didn't do anything about it. And then to try to complicate the matter and make the water a little dirty, a little murky, then you have a Biden official say, oh, well, a balloon or some balloons came through during the Trump administration. Guess what? Trump and his officials immediately came out and said that is a 100% lie. It never happened. There was never briefings on that. Lies, lies, lies. Keep that in mind. So then they tried to deter you. Oh, yeah, well, it was over here. It was over there. And during the midst of this, how many times did we hear from Joe Biden? We didn't, because Joe Biden doesn't know where he is. Joe Biden was being pushed off stages, where he can't talk about things last week. Joe Biden getting him off stage. He can't talk about this. He can't talk about that. That's what this was about.
Right.
A lot. How long do you think a United States balloon would last going over the country of China?
Wouldn't happen, and it would be the biggest international story ever.
And how long do you think it would last going over the country of Russia? It wouldn't. This is why we sit back and, yes, our Americans who make jokes and everything else, because everything in this country is about entertainment. It's a joke. It's funny. It's like, I get it.
It's the same reason
this was a big story.
It's the same reason that when Chelios used to go after the Blues players, the entire bench of the Blues would get up and knock the crap out of him. Because if you don't do that, if you show weakness, you're just going to get your ass kicked all the damn time. This is cut and dry. United States military should have destroyed this balloon, and they should have paraded it around the United States as a big and just said, look what these guys are building.
They could have and should have, and they didn't. And it's definitely a failure. Whether or not there were 6 prior balloons, I don't know. I know Trump denied it, and I do believe President Trump, or maybe he wasn't briefed. But here's the thing: China has a bazillion satellites floating across the United States all the time. These satellites can see down into every space, and they can see through your blinds and your windows. So how much more can this balloon see and pick up that their satellites aren't picking up?
That's really, a trial balloon. It was a trial balloon, and you basically got these Chinese military guys just over there in Beijing laughing their asses off, going, clowns.
Well, I can tell you this much. I bet Bradlee Dean would have shot it down if it would have come over Minnesota. If he would have saw it. We welcome into the show Bradlee Dean, nationally syndicated radio talk show host, Sons of Liberty. If you recognize him, that's because you've seen him on Fox News, MSNBC.
Yes.
Hell, he's been all over the country, you name it, trying to talk about freedom in this country, the problems, the issues. Hey, Bradlee, welcome into Cancel This at cancelthisshow.com. That balloon didn't come over Minnesota, did it? Oh, we don't have him on the auto right now.
He's having.
All right, we'll work back with Bradlee. We appreciate you jumping in, Bradlee. If you can hear us, and I think you can, just wanted to let you know that we were trying to work on the audio aspect. We'll get you back on here in just a second. Thank you for your patience, working on that whole situation right now. I promise you. You said you saw it, right, Tabitha?
I did see it. I
personally
saw. But you know what's so crazy about that is we have to remember that some people say it's 120,000 feet up. I heard it was 80,000 feet up. That covers a very, very large distance. Yeah. So when I could look up and see it, so could people halfway across the state.
It was 60,000. It had get transferred down to 30,000. So it was in the airspace of airliners. It was, and that really wasn't even the point.
When it got to South Carolina.
It really wasn't even the point. It was just the fact that, it's the fact that a lot of the country didn't find it that, it didn't care that much about it.
But
it looked like a balloon.
If there were 6
there were
prior,
memes made about it. We were making fun of it on Facebook and TikTok, and it was actually a very serious military problem that we were having, and it lasted a week.
Is it a problem, or did the media make it a bigger problem than it really is?
No.
A satellite can see more than this balloon could see. A satellite can pick up more than that balloon can pick up.
No, Tabitha, because you're so smart and you know how to analyze so well. The problem is that
I want to know what this balloon picked up and the satellites aren't.
Listen to me.
Was it a big deal just because we saw it if there were 6 before this that we didn't know about?
Hold on. Taiwan's looking at the United States going, these guys have no backbone. Europe is looking at us going,
Taiwan is asking us for weapons like Ukraine.
Europe is looking at us like, what are you guys doing? The whole world is looking at 2 of the biggest nuclear powers, 2 of the biggest military powers on the planet. And one of them is basically just messing with them like a cat and a cat toy. And the cat toy is winning.
Scott, did you want to jump in?
I just want to try his audio. I just brought him in through the phone. We got his video on the video and the audio through the phone. So do we have you on audio now, Bradlee?
Yes, we got him.
Appreciate it, guys. Sorry, I've never seen this one before. I can tell you that, and I've been doing this for 23 years.
Yeah.
It's facial recognition from the government. It's screwing with all of us.
Hey, Bradlee, welcome into cancelthisshow.com. We're grateful for the time that you had today. You heard my question earlier, but we didn't get to hear your response. I mean, how big of a story was this balloon situation, in your opinion?
Well, on a personal level, I believe it was total distraction. It's an absolute joke. I mean, you got the NSA, you got the Facebook, you got Twitter, you got Google, you got the big tech companies gathering all of our information. And even to take it a step further, which you can go online and find out all the information that I'm sharing with even now. It's interesting how the Chinese are playing the enemies to America. And yet the same thing going on with Russia, same thing going on with other countries, and yet they're all calling for a new world order.
Yes.
So who's playing the stooges here? The American people are, as if to suggest this is a legitimate threat to America. Give me a break.
No.
People need to wake up as to what's going on here. And if it was a legitimate threat, obviously our military would have came in and shot it down right on the spot. And as you asked me earlier, if it came over the top of my house, I would have shot it down.
I know you would have. The little bit I know about you, I know you would have been all over that. Hey, you, our viewers and listeners just got a little flavor, a little appetizer of who you are, but let our audience know who you are, how you got to be where you are now, what you're doing, and why you're trying to make a difference.
Well, I'm not trying to make a difference. I am making a difference. I hope. I mean, that's what's promised to me. First of all, I'm a preacher. I came out of the rock and roll world. We used to tour all over the States of America. Once I truly got saved, not by man, but by Christ, I started noticing a youth pastor talking about doing high school assemblies, and he kept talking about all the things that were inundating the kids, well, how they were being subjected to everything and protected from nothing. Well, I wanted to be a part of the answer. I didn't want to be a part of the problem. So what I did is I just started to move into high school assemblies, and we were asked by a principal in the state of Minnesota to come in to do a high school assembly. And that wasn't by chance. It was about a year and a half worth of work. And we did the first high school. After the first year, we did 3 the next year, 9 the year after that, and about 100 after that. So I've done about 360 public high schools in 25 different states. I'm on national radio now. I'm broadcasting into about 157 cities. I go to about 40 different outlets. And guys, it's not because I'm smarter than anybody else. It's just I'm willing to do it. There's too many people out there talking about the problems rather than magnifying the law against those that are creating the problems in this country. And again, I wanted to be a part of the answer, not a part of the problem. That's what we've been doing for about 23 years now.
23 years. Man, I see that a lot of problems have happened in the last 24 months. It seems like the United States went from kind of normal to what in the hell is going on around here. What's our biggest problem right now, and how? I mean, swing a dead cat and you'll find a problem. What's our biggest problem, and how do we kind of attack them?
Well, boy, that's a pretty broad question, and it's probably going to take me about 45 minutes to answer that.
It's a podcast. Go ahead.
But listen, really what it comes down to, the more I do my homework, the more I understand where we came from. I was just in Williamsburg, Yorktown, and Jamestown. And when I study out our forefathers, they say if you don't know your past, you don't know your future. Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to know exactly what it is what's wrong with America. And I noticed that our forefathers, when you read the Declaration of Independence, which, by the way, 3/4 of that document is our forefathers throwing off a tyrant that wouldn't be ruled by God, they said.
Yes.
And we see that 3% of the population, along with 13 colonies and 56 signers, they weren't calling on their favorite politicians to free them from the tyrannical rule from King George across the pond. The flags that were flying were no king but King Jesus and appeal to heaven. That's what we're missing. We're missing our God. We've forsaken him. And when you look at our founding documents, I was noticing your Attorney General talking about the Constitution earlier. And it's interesting, all these politicians, the responses that I've seen coming in from that conversation, they say the right things, but they're not doing what they promised to do.
Right.
And I say that to say this, they put their hands on the Bible, swearing to God and man that they will uphold the enumerated laws, which is premised on common law, God's moral law in America. Americans have turned their back on God, and they're reaping the hell that they deserve because they're talking and doing everything but what they should be doing, in a nutshell.
That's exactly right. I just to follow up on that. The more I've been listening to this stuff, the more I'm like thinking, you know what, this what's going on in this world, in this country right now, it's not organic. This is manufactured somehow. There's no way that
100%.
There's no way that people want to be like this. There's no way that this woke culture is friendly to American families. I mean, do you see it the same way? Is this something that's like, it's not just a United States citizen saying, hey, we need a revolution and become woke? I mean, is this something that was manufactured from somewhere else?
Oh, absolutely. And listen, if you go to the Supreme Court, let's just go there, because you'll find this guy all over the United States in Capitol buildings. In the state of Minnesota, you'll find him too. You look above the Supreme Court, what do you see? You see Moses and the Ten Commandments. What do you see under Moses and the Ten Commandments? Justice is the guardian of liberty. So what happens when you remove God? You bring in organizations such as the ACLU that say that the end of the ACLU is communism. They're subversive to American government. You guys were talking about George Soros and the crimes that he's committing. Well, when you leave your God, this is what you're going to get. And John Locke, one of the founders, along with Charles D. Montesquieu and William Blackstone, said, where the law ends, God's moral law, tyranny begins. And what you're seeing is a government that's acting outside of its scope of authority. What you're seeing through so many politicians on the federal level and on the state level is they're acting foreign to the U.S. Constitution. And therein lies the problem. We don't have a king in this country. And the reason I'm saying that is when you look at Article 6, Section 2, we have a supremacy clause. Everything that we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do is already found in the U.S. Constitution. And we can find that when we take the time to peruse the U.S. Constitution. But that's a thing of the past, because there's been a political language that's been created to make lies sound truthful. And hence, what do you have? You have 101 unconstitutional parties set up to divide the American people one against another. And then people, what's wrong with this country? It's unconstitutional. And the way your said representatives are acting is foreign to the Constitution that they swore to uphold, period.
Bradlee, I'm curious if you think that in the end, does any of it even matter? We all sit here on the show and we talk about so many different issues, but at the same time, I also firmly believe that we are heading into the great war. The world is dividing. We have NATO versus BRICS. Countries are lining up one by one, and they're either choosing NATO, like the United States and Europe, or they're choosing BRICS. And we see every day a new country falling in line, and most of them are falling in line behind BRICS. And there is no question when it comes to the war over globalism, something is going to happen.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt, and it's all been designed to make something happen. And what they want to do is they want to destabilize nations. And who's doing this? The mainstream media. By the way, Vic, Eric and Tabitha, 94% of the American people don't believe the mainstream media, and rightfully so. Truth in the Bible. So what begs the question here, Tabitha, is who told you that? The mainstream media that nobody believes.
Wait, I know you don't know me, but I don't watch mainstream media. I haven't watched TV since 9/11. I can guarantee you, if you don't know already, definitely study up on it, because we are going to be in a war over globalism, and it's going to be BRICS against NATO. Countries are lining up. At some point, BRICS is going to be more powerful than NATO, and they are going to be the superpower of the world. And I don't know where we as Americans are going to be.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is if we'd hold our said representatives, once again, this comes into play because it's important that we understand this. If the said representatives were actually doing their job, we wouldn't be in this particular position right now in the first place. So you got to ask the question, who's creating the problems? The same ones that are creating the chaos or the same ones trying to bring in the new order? This isn't a conspiracy theory, folks. It's all over all over Google. It's all over everything that you search out today. They're blatantly telling you what their end aim is. So what happens? Let's say this. We hear that there's 300 cabal globalists in the world, okay? Well, in America alone, we have 329.5 million people. Why don't those 329.5 million people, which, by the way, 86% profess to be Christians, why don't those people take responsibility and love God enough to actually keep his commandments and round up these criminals and hold them accountable? That might sound like an insurrectionist, but the fact of the matter is, if you look at provision in the Constitution, we, the people, are the government in this country. Number one, our said representatives derive their just powers from the consent of we, the people. They do what we allow them to do. And if we don't like what they're doing, we can impeach them, Article 2, Section 4, and we can prosecute them. So we're doing everything but what we should be doing. And what the people in this country need to do is send the message to those criminal politicians that we're not going to put up with your crimes against we the people anymore in violation of your sworn oaths.
We're talking with Bradlee Dean, Sons of Liberty Radio. He is a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. He's been on just about every show you can imagine across the country. As you said, you're a former rocker. What's near and dear to your heart are these kids. Eric talks a lot about the younger generation, the difficulty in reaching them, all of the things that these kids, and I say kids, could be a lot of, I mean, let's say 18, 20 and under, have had to deal with the media, with entertainment, with all kinds of peer pressure being thrown at them. What concerns you when you're out talking to these kids? What kind of things, what kind of stories are you hearing and seeing, Brad?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, the younger generation, I mean, common sense does come into play. Luke 7:35 tells us that wisdom is justified by your children. Isn't it interesting that those that are sending their kids into public schools in the first place, 86% of them are Christians, a lack of, patriots, a lack of, and conservatives, dropping their kids off at a public school to be raised up by their sworn enemies. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of hypocrisy going on in this country. The kids in public schools, and I don't do just public schools, I do colleges, I do tea parties, I do churches, I do television, radio, whatever the case might be. But in particular, when it comes to the young people, they're trying to figure out where the love is from their pastors and their parents, that they're being subjected to this illegal indoctrination that's taking place in public schools in the first place, which is a violation of the 10th Amendment. The federal government doesn't have any business teaching your children anything. Yeah. Not a thing. And the people, they have gone so far out of understanding who they are and where they came from that they just think that whatever the government does today, it must be somehow or another legitimized. Yeah. No, folks, what you're going to find is if you talk to these said politicians again, you're going to find out that they don't even know the Constitution. And then you wonder why they're acting outside of their scope of given authority. They don't have the authority to do it in the first place.
Yes. You know what, man? Democrats are really good at making change. I don't know how they're doing it. I think they're like army ants. I talk about it on this show all the time. They move together like army ants. They destroy lions as an army ant group. They destroy humans as an army ant group. Conservatives are really, really good at identifying the problems and talking about how awesome this country used to be back in the day before all this wokeism. Yeah. How do you change that? And Vic just brought up the kids and TikTok. The kids on TikTok seem to always kind of gravitate towards this woke garbage, towards all this stuff that's kind of destroying this country. How do conservative kids or conservative messages get to the younger generation? How do conservatives stop talking about the problems and start fixing the problems?
They have to do their own due diligence. I mean, if you ever wonder why Fox News and their talking heads, and it doesn't apply just to Fox News, if you're trying to figure out why they're worth $300, $400, $500 million, it's because they serve their sponsors.
Right.
They're not serving people, and the people haven't figured this out yet. The only thing that you see on conservative talk shows today, for the most part, is them talking about a Republican Party and a Democratic Party. Guess what, guys? Neither one of them constitutionally exist. That system is set up to divide and conquer the American people. And if you look at what John Adams, the second president of the United States, warned over 200 years ago concerning the American people, he said the greatest evil under the Constitution is a two-party system. We need to be careful of what we're drinking, we're listening to. The conservatives of the day are yesterday's liberals.
Yeah,
if you want to understand, what's up?
I'm sorry, man. I was just going to say, wasn't it Roosevelt that said the biggest fear that the thing that we need to fear the most is public unions? He even said it. He goes, the thing that will kill this country faster than anything is that we get unions into this country, and yet we went ahead and did it. And look what it's doing to our education system right now. It's like we don't listen to our own advice sometimes, you know?
Oh, right. Yeah, well, more than not. And here's the thing: if you want it all to stop, pull your kids out of public schools.
Exactly.
There's the answer right there, because you'll find that back in the day, at the beginning of this country, for 150 years, it was the parents raising up their own kids.
Right.
Now they've had their sworn enemies to raise them up.
Well, it's how our society functions and operates. So too, Bradley, as you know, it's we get comfortable with the way of life, and you send your kids to school. Everything's expensive. You go to your jobs. Now you have moms working as well, both parents working in many cases. And kids aren't around so that you can support the lifestyle that we have.
Right.
And that's kind of what we know. We've been programmed to live like this.
That's right. We've been programmed. We've been raised up in this fashion to believe that this is how it is. But that's why we go back and study our phone documents and understand where it is that we came from. Hey, guys, if we don't know where we came from, we don't know where we're going. And that's the problem that we're having today, is we're aimless, because we don't have a clue as to what real history is. One of the things, if I can just interject this, you were talking about it earlier, Tabitha, about, what's going on with the drag queens and the sodomite agenda in public schools and how they're preying on the kids. All of this is the activity of felons in the United States of America. If you look at state statutes throughout the United States of America, all of these acts that are being played out in front of our kids, and why the Attorney General didn't bring this up didn't surprise me. But it is his job, because he's the top cop in the state. Instead of debating away our God-given rights, he comes in with the law and puts a stop to it. After all, the purpose of government is to condemn the wicked and to justify the righteous.
That's right.
And I don't find anywhere in the Constitution where it is the teacher's job to sexualize anybody's children.
It's not.
Look what's going.
Bradley, it's not. You know what? That's the parents' job. And unfortunately, our government, people don't understand when the government wants to say, hey, I'm going to give you free pre-K. What that means, they just want to get a hold of your children earlier. They want to indoctrinate them earlier. They want you to be working all the time. They want you to be busy. They want you to bring your kids to Head Start programs. They want you to bring your kids to all these public programs so that they can get their hands on your children, so that you don't have time to program with God or with moral value. And they want to do it themselves, their way.
That's right. And God is the enemy. See, what they're trying to do is they're trying to raise up a whole generation.
That's right.
They're trying to create a world without God.
Mm-hmm.
That's about backwards it can possibly be, folks. I mean, that it never happened in the past, and it's never going to happen in the future. And I want to say this, going full circle back to one of the questions, what do you see as how this is going to work out? I have hope every day of my life. And if I didn't, I wouldn't get up and do it all over again. The history of the church is that your backs are up against the wall, and here comes the Lord. And that is the history of America. If you read the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Mayflower Compact, it's all there for you to understand as to who came in and rescued that generation to give us what we have today. I don't think people understand the price paid for their freedoms, and that's exactly why we're here today. Everybody's just letting everybody just do whatever they want to do. Well, if we understood that, and if I can take it this direction for a moment, Vic, if you go to Arlington Cemetery, those guys fought, bled, and died fighting off tyranny in other countries. Well, guess what? Their posterity is now subject to the same tyrants in third world countries. in their own backyards because they don't know the difference between what is right and what is wrong according to law. They have no understanding of what the law says. And that's what liberates the people. If we obey the law, guess what? We're a free people. And if you want to go ahead and test your steel, get in your car and drive down the highway at 75 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone and tell me how it works out.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's true.
Bradley, I've said it often. When a country turns its back on God and you look at history of the world and the superpowers, good luck with what's next. Hey, before you get out of here today, we're talking some serious topics. I want to have a little fun, bring a little levity into it. Tell us about your rock and roll background, because we got a rock and roll star in here with Eric Johnson.
No.
We've also got a rock and roll star with Scotty Gherkin, who's a lead singer. They're both in current bands now. What was your history with rock and roll?
Well, I was in a band called, of all names, Power Trip, back in the 90s. And then we toured across the United States. It became Sunset Strip.
Mm-hmm.
I had a real God-like conversion, not a man-made conversion. In other words, I wasn't talked into Christianity by man. Therefore, I can't be talked out of my Christianity. But with that said, I then joined a band called Junkyard Prophet. And they were from a band called The Brave. And they were actually, they had 6 #1 hit songs across the country. And what I did is I came in as the drummer, and then we began to tour around. But one of the things that I noticed is they had a manager, Des Dickerson from Prince. And one of the things that I noticed is they wanted to stay in the Christian arena. And I'm like, guys, that's like going to Mexico to teach them Spanish. It doesn't. So what I said is we need to get out of here. And then that's when we went to public schools, fully endorsed. Just got done doing an album with Val Garay. My wife did just last year in Topanga, California. Worked with Warner Brothers. Also worked with Geffen Records. And then we toured with Drowning Pool 3 years ago and other bands. And with that, we're still holding to who we are, not what the world wants us to be, because we're called to be a light in a dark place. And that's exactly what we did. Fully endorsed, got, all the bells and whistles, hats, so on and so forth. And I'm inundated into that world. And every year that we go down to the NAMM show and we hang out with everybody and we preach the gospel, because that's what I'm called to do. And I'm more than willing and honored to do just that. So there's a lot more to it. But with that said, that's a nutshell.
I know, but you know what, man? You are in a perfect position because you're used to the stage. You're used to the film. You're used to communicating. And people like you, we need more people like you to get out there and just start saying, hey, all the stuff that's going on in this country is wrong. And let me show you the right path. So, you use your training wisely, man. I love it.
Oh, I have been. And what's interesting with that is, every time I step into the public arena, especially in the high school assembly programs, they always know that I'm there. Here comes the mainstream media. If it's not the New York Times, it's MSNBC. If it's not MSNBC, it's CNN. I got them all over my walls. These are the the notches on my belts, per se. They know. It's interesting how, had they known, they probably wouldn't be doing what they're doing, but they're really giving me a greater platform every time they attack this ministry. And what they do is they try to that you've never said before. I'm just about going back and really showing them their history, even going back into the 60s, what grandma and grandpa knew, and seeing the complete contrast to where we're at today. And why is it that the people are tolerating what our grandpas and our grandmas did? And that bewilders me to no end. We got to go back to the old past. Jeremiah 6:16, and that's the direction that I continuously point.
You know what? Do you agree with this? Do you think that it's time that we do a massive PSA about the evilness of this George Soros cat? That this guy is literally just throwing money around hand over fist, and he's destroying a lot of this stuff. Is it time?
Who's going to do the PSA?
He's
supported by the government.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Do you think? I don't know who the conservative guys anymore that have the cash. But isn't it time that we start putting stories together about George Soros and what he's really trying to do?
Everybody knows who George Soros is. Everybody knows who he is. He's an international criminal. He went on 60 Minutes. He told the world that he rather enjoyed plundering the Jews that were being thrown onto cattle cars. And now we see his son doing the same exact thing in modern days. But if I can go back and just say what I said several times now, Eric, George Soros is not only an international criminal, but the 202 organizations that he set up in America are subversive to American government.
Yes.
See, the people don't know the difference. The ACLU is a communist organization. The SPLC is a communist organization. The list goes on. They don't have any constitutional standing. And you say, well, Bradlee, what do you know? Well, the ACLU came after my ministry once.
Yeah, but the thing is that you, but hold on, check it out. The ACLU is also known by the people who are in the media as these guys are defenders of liberty.
Because the media is ran by the government.
I know, but maybe it's time that we start shifting the narrative a little bit and saying, no, the ACLU is literally, and just making no bones about it. This is a communist organization, and they're in your backyard. George Soros, here's his face. If you see him in public, arrest him, do it a citizen's arrest because he's destroying urban areas all over the country. We don't have anything like that going on. And the people like Tabitha and yourself and me, we know who Soros is. But I think it's starting to get time to wherever we have a new election in this country, that prosecutor over there was funded by George Soros. So if you want George Soros in your backyard, vote for her. You know what I'm saying? Or
you're going to find the politicians that are condemning George Soros are in fact taking money from George Soros.
Good point. That's a damn good point.
That's in the way that you measure that. How do you tell if a stick is crooked? You put a straight one next to it. That's why it's so important to know our founding documents. Because even when you go into a Capitol building, and let me even refer back to the Attorney General, he kept saying the right things, but he was telling people that didn't know the difference of what the law said as to what the right thing was. That's his job to do. It's his job to enforce that law against the likes of people like a George Soros, not to sit and patty cake with them. But everybody's talking the talk, Eric. Everybody's talking about how bad organizations are. I was making a point with the ACLU. I did a high school assembly in Dunkerton, Iowa. This was the third time we did this particular school. They loved the assembly, best one they had in 30 years, they said. And what was interesting is the mainstream media came in and attacked me. Well, when they attacked me, guess what we do? We don't capitulate. We don't run. We turn around and we go right back to the same city, and we let the people know that the mainstream media is lying again.
What are they attacking you for, Bradlee? Do they come at your message of God in public schools?
Well, no, what we do is we film everything. And once we're done filming everything, then the media comes in and they try to create something out of what we said. They'll take it out of context, and then they'll call it a parent protest or something like that. Well, what they don't know, they have it all on film. And this is what they continuously do. They want to set the narrative at all costs. But what they learn is they don't attack people. This is what you need to hear, guys. They don't attack people that know the law. And I want to tell you why, because they're not the ones that are going to spin out and run away from the fight. No, you run to the fight. When I went back to Dunkerton, we had a packed church with parents asking what happened. We had about 15 kids outside protesting us, led by some liberal whack job. And the fact of the matter is she drew a crowd for me to speak to the whole state. And so once we went back, the ACLU also attacked us. We seen the ACLU attacked us, and we had a letter sent off to the ACLU within 2 days. A week later, we got screenshots of all of this, misrepresenting the ministry and what we did in that high school. And within a week, we get a letter back from the ACLU saying, we have no idea what you're talking about. Well, we had it all on screen that they attacked the ministry in this publicly. Yeah. What did they do? They were the ones that ran because they now knew that the law is going to come in. And by the way, we've set 3 lawful precedents throughout the United States of America. We've never lost the right to do the things that we've always done. And it's important that your listeners hear this. We've never lost the right. The American people have forfeited their rights.
The ACLU, they have driven the division in this country. They are a racist organization, and they will do anything they can to intimidate people.
Well, we don't take counsels from our fears, guys. Listen, Bonhoeffer, the guy that faced off with Adolf Hitler, said either you fear the face of God or you fear the face of man. And we don't take our counsels from our fears. What happened to those bumper stickers that say these colors don't run? The only reason there's an ACLU in America, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like it, but you know what? I love you enough to tell you what nobody else is willing to tell you. The fact of the matter is ACLUs, SPLC, and all these other organizations are still here because the American people tolerate them. That's why.
Correct. Well said.
Correct.
Hey, Bradlee, how can people get in contact with you if there's somebody who's listening that, and I don't even know how far you go for your assemblies, but how can people get in contact with you? How can people listen to you and maybe even bring you to a school?
Well, you can call the number, which is 1-866-233-0747. And by the way, go over to sonsoflibertyradio.com. Don't take my word for it. I'm just in there fighting for the kids because we're demonstrating our love for them. But if you go to sonsoflibertyradio.com, you'll find all of what the people experienced during the high school assembly. And then on the other side, I also want you to do me a favor and go over and do a wiki search on me, just to show you how the media has treated the fact that we've went in to rescue, per se, a generation of kids that are being inundated, or as I said earlier, being subjected to everything and protected from nothing. Much of what's going on in public schools is absolutely criminal when you put it up against the law in so many different ways.
Isn't it ironic that you're going into the pub? How do they even let you in? I mean, it's like this guy's.
We've never lost the right. We've never lost that right. And I've done schools from Florida to Minnesota, Alaska. We've done them all across the United States of America. I'll tell you what it really comes down to is if you love your kids enough to educate them, then bring us in. And if you're not willing to fight for what you say that you love concerning your country, then don't waste your time. We don't need ankle biters and we don't need people to waste our time. But if you're serious about doing something, give us a call, 1-866-233-0747. I also want to say this real quick. We're out somewhere every single month. Next month, I'm going to be in South Dakota. I just got back from Rancho Santa Fe, California. In March, I will be in Michigan. I got 5 dates there, as well as we will be doing television again. We're going to do a research for television on the East Coast coming up in April and May as well. So we're busy little bees. We've never stopped. We're more busier now than we ever have been because people are awakening to the dangers that they see on the horizon. And we're just a part of actually bringing the answers to their community. And they bring us in again and again and again. And we're honored again to be a part of that.
Nice. Hey, before you get out of here, who is your favorite drummer?
Remember Metal Church?
Metal Church, yes. That's awesome.
Kirk Harrington was a bad. You want to talk about abstract. You want to talk about unique. And I also like the guys from Jane's Addiction. I like the variety of music. And as they say, Greg Bissonette said this. He said, the best drummers are those that take a little from everybody and make it their own. And by the way, if you want to check out some of our videos, go to Alarm for War. You can check out some of our videos. We just got off tour with Drowning Pool, as I said, and you can still see those videos out there. And it's a lot of fun to do what we do. And again, I just can't tell you how honored I am to be a part of the answer and bringing the answers to this country.
Yeah, I always look at music as like a bowling league now. It's something that us old guys do in the weekend. I'm talking. Of course, I'm talking about myself, not you and Scotty, no doubt.
Who are you with, Eric? I'm curious.
Oh, I used to play in a band called Shooting Star. I used to play up in Minneapolis all the time. I can't remember the
Where
name.
at?
Eric can't remember what he had for breakfast.
We used to play at the Riff Radio in the Detroit and in Minneapolis. I cannot remember. The Odyssey was it? No, it wasn't the Odyssey. It was somewhere over there by, we would always go drive by Prince's old place too. But yeah.
Gotcha.
What was the name of that joint up there in Minneapolis?
Dude, I don't know.
It was so awesome.
You and Scott say that. I don't remember where we played. We played everywhere across America.
I know we did. What was it? Joe Louis Arena one time, but that's up in Detroit. No, it was again. I always tell these guys, it's like I do it for fun now. But you're doing it. You're kind of morphing it into this thing over at the schools, and I think that's just awesome. I need to try to do that. I should take my.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. There's a little break here, but I just had Nugent on. I just did an event with Nugent as well in Michigan. But we talk about a plethora of issues. Now, keep in mind, me broadcasting on air, on radio in 157 cities, that's not reaching out just to the kids. That's now reaching out to the older generation. Yeah. And we're doing that 6 days a week too, on top of television. So we are literally being spent at every given opportunity that we're given. And so with that, it's not just one size fits all, but we do go through all demographics.
Do you have to talk to the older generation this way? I'll give you a little bit of advice. Talk to them and say, you're not blue collar Democrats anymore. Something has come and taken over your party. You can't vote Democrat, even though it's very comfortable to do, because that's not what you are anymore. And you got to explain that to them, because a lot of the Democrats I talk to here in St. Louis, they still feel like they're voting as a union member for General Motors, and they're not. So,
well, remember, the political language that's been created to make lies sound truthful. Let me give you one quick example. I went out, we had a friend that was a representative in Maryland, and he carries around a Declaration of Independence and a Constitution in his pocket. He said that they are so illiterate concerning the Constitution and operate in such a foreign fashion to the U.S. Constitution that he went and made comments concerning some of the things that were going on illegally in contrast to those documents. And on the way out, after he made his comments on the floor, the federal floor, he was asked by the court reporter, what was it that you were referencing? That's how ignorant they are. The founding documents are a foreign language to our said representatives, no doubt.
No, I think every campaign video from this point forward should be Senator Johnson asking the people who are trying to become the federal judges, hey, can you explain Article 2 to me? And none of them could do it. None of them knew the damn document that they were going to be defending.
Well, hey, Bradlee, man, we appreciate you spending so much time today and working with us to get you on. You're a breath of fresh air. Love the energy, love the passion, the heart at really trying and doing what you are to make a difference, not only with younger people, but older people as well, encouraging us as well. Iron sharpens iron, and you're certainly getting out there and doing it. And by the way, if you have a single friend that's a lot like you, I'd like to set Tabitha up with somebody like yourself.
We're worried about her.
A man that speaks and is about these sorts of things and gets it. So, Bradlee, we are grateful for you. If we can help you in any way, we'll certainly be promoting this as well. And we encourage people who are listening to certainly reach out to you and try to use you in your group.
Had a lot of fun, guys.
All right, appreciate it, brother. Have a great day.
You're our new normal. You're going to be on this show a lot, so get ready.
Whatever you guys want to shake, rattle, and roll, I will make myself available. That's a promise.
Nice.
Right, Bradlee Dean, we appreciate it, buddy. Thanks again. God bless all the work you're doing. Love the energy there in regards to what he's doing. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
Okay, stop right now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do you guys love Bradlee?
Yes.
Okay, Vic.
Do I what?
Do you love Bradlee?
As a heck, I love what he is doing.
I want to go back to the very beginning when he agreed with me about the China balloon.
Oh, God. Oh, it's just like a chick. They have to be right about everything, don't they? No,
I thought you were
had to throw that out there.
I thought you were. Oh, wait. I thought you were going to. This is called scorecard.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
You know, I thought he was.
But he did agree with me.
No, he agreed with you on something else.
Yes.
The Attorney General. On some of the answers.
He did. Very cookie cutter politician.
It's a first interview,
but it is a first interview.
You put the. But yeah, we'll get Bradlee back on. It's great to. I can only imagine. I mean, because
he's fantastic.
If you go out, not even bringing God into the picture, which is on top of everything that he's doing, but if you're trying to teach or bring up Constitution, which is crazy, you get attacked.
Mm-hmm.
If you're teaching the Democrats what the Constitution says.
The Democrats think that the Constitution is this Play-Doh that you can just kind of squish around and make it work in your favor, whereas conservatives think that it's made out of concrete, and that's the challenge here. And he's absolutely right. From now on, it just needs to be said: this document, word for word, is the concrete that we base the society on. There is no more moving the document around to fit needs of the liberal progressives. But I'll say this, and I'm going to be fair, Drew Collins or whoever's listening. If you want to make a law and push it through the House of Representatives up to the Senate and then get it signed by the president. Maybe a constitutional amendment. Go for it. But you cannot do it through our court system anymore. It has got to be word. The Constitution is word for word for word. And that's how you should develop all your decisions.
We have to. In this country, unfortunately, the Biden regime, the Constitution is a suggestion.
It's not.
No, it's
not. And it's an offense and it's an assault on this country if you go in to be a judge and you formulate your views against the document that you are protecting.
Well, that's it's our president's job. They swear on oath the day they're inaugurated that they are going to adhere to and protect our Constitution, but that's not happening. And I love that Bradlee is going out and educating people on the Constitution, because there are so many people who don't understand that the Democrat and Republican regimes are not constitutional.
And a lot of times, I wanted to get this in just to remind everybody, when it comes to the Constitution, I think a lot of Americans back off of it and don't go and push it because they don't know it.
That's right.
You're not taught this in school. Just think about this. You have some classes, but how important is the Constitution? If you go and ask 25-year-olds and below, ask them how important the Constitution is and explain it. They don't know. And when I say they don't know, I mean a greater majority don't understand what the Constitution is, because we get comfortable and assume that everything is good. And then we have a generation that's born into great wealth and easiness and comfort and entertainment and sports and music and good times and movies. And it's like, wait a second. Then when the Constitution starts to be taken away from you and you don't know it, it's hard to defend something that you don't know what it is. When you don't know exactly, oh, wait a second, I had the Constitution on my side. As Bradlee said, the ACLU came at him once.
The Constitution is the greatest moderator of all time. It literally says, it gives you the roadmap of what you can and cannot do. It spells out
for people
your freedoms.
Who follow it.
Well, it took us a long time to get to where we are with the school situations now. It's going to take a while for people to realize that there are other schools, not going against public schools, but at the same point in time, if you're not learning about the Constitution, if you're learning about indoctrination, parents have choices to make. That's why classical schools are starting to bounce up. And there are some constitutional colleges that are fantastic schools. I brought up Hillsdale in Michigan as being one of them. But there's not enough. So there has to be that push.
I hate to say that I know that a lot. It seems like I feel like a lot of the discussion we've had today is based around schools. We had the AG on, and then we had Dean on, and he's in the schools, and I feel like that's where my brain is for some reason. I loved the schools that I went to. I went to Parkway Central, I went to Pattonville, I went to Francis Howell High School, and I didn't see any of this indoctrination stuff. I didn't.
It was
feel
the time.
It was the time, right? I didn't feel that stuff. and it's so sad to me. It's so sad to me that we're talking about Missouri or any state that wants to give money to parents and say, look, we throw our hands in the air. We are tired of this indoctrination nation. We are tired of schools telling your kids CRT, telling about transgender rights, talking about blah, blah, whatever it is.
You talking about the Ohio situation?
Yes.
We have Missouri Governor Mike Parson on.
I'm super sad about that, man. I'm sad about that. But I'm happy that, man, maybe there's a chance that a private school system will develop out of this, that will teach the Constitution. It will teach history from a fact-based and no ideology. It will teach calculus. It will teach writing, reading, arithmetic. It will have some of the best sports programs on the planet, and it will not teach our kids anything that's not wholesome. And then I get to have this voucher, and I get to walk my kid to this school and go, screw you, Parkway Central.
Ask Governor Parson about it tomorrow morning. We've got Governor Parson, State of Missouri Governor Mike Parson, Tuesday, 8/10. Of course, go to canceltheshow.com. You can check out all of our original content there for your viewing pleasure and or your listening pleasure on podcast. What a great show. We've also got Representative Justin Hicks tomorrow. We got a packed show. Ben DeVerger with Athena Warranty. You name it, we got it.
I just spoke to Bradley on the phone. He called after he was done and just wanted to thank you guys. He said, I don't say this very often in 23 years. He had a blast on the show, and he's more than welcome to come back anytime you guys would like to have him.
Absolutely. It's like the network of these voices. The network of these voices is so important.
As long as he agrees with me.
Of course. And we love
Oh my God. Why are you inviting
That's why we're all here to agree with that.
Oh my God.
It's about time you figured
And if
that
you
out.
don't, it's hell for everybody.
That's right.
Jesus.
Guys, it's cancelthisshow.com. We love you. Thank you for supporting us. Of course, if you want to check out Bradley as well as he just said, the phone number to get in contact with him and his organization, Sons of Liberty Radio, 866-233-0747. He said, do a wiki search on him. You'll see how he's been attacked, but also you can check out his music videos. Alarm for War. Once again, Alarm for War. That phone number from 866-233-0747. Thank you for joining us for Cancel This. For our mystery producer, Scott Gerken.
Our mystery producer,
Eric Johnson.
So sad.
Tabitha Hassel. Maybe someday we'll be able to say mystery producer's name.
Okay.
I'm Vic Faust. Thanks for watching Cancel This. Remember, share the show. Continue to share it. You can continue to comment. They go on all throughout the night and tomorrow until we come back. Big show again tomorrow. Thank you for watching Cancel This.